This World Cup saw us begin with 20 teams, 14 of those with the confidence they could push through to the quarterfinals. However, only 4 had a real claim to the silverware, plus Australia, who Eddie Jones insisted will win it. With the rest of the world tripping over each other, these teams played with power, speed and accuracy so overwhelming it makes you question, why as a struggling Welsh fan you ever got your hopes up in the first place? These teams are France, South Africa, Ireland and New Zealand. France went into the World Cup favourites, boasting a plethora of generational talent and a handsome winning record over the last couple of years. This label was reinforced as they swiped away the Kiwis on the opening night, handing them their first ever pool game loss. However, the title soon found a new home as the world champion Boks strangled the Scots a few days later, serving as a friendly reminder to the world just how relentless they are in tournament rugby. But once again, they weren't the favourites for long. A clash with the world number 1 Irish provided one of the best games of all time, an inspirational Irish victory, proving they're not to be taken lightly. The Irish bossed this title for the rest of the pool stage, making any claims that Finn Russell could pull off a miracle seem ridiculous. This brought us to the quarterfinals, with the nightmare draw reaping us 2 grand final worthy fixtures. These quarterfinals were just... fuck me, they were excellent. I haven't watched all the World Cups, but surely these have to be a contender for the best set of quarters ever. There were 39 phases of desperate play in overtime across those 3 games. It was just unbelievably stressful. And the one game that didn't was Argentina-Wales, which was still a contest until the 78th minute when a thrilling intercept from Sanchez sent the Welsh packing. We then saw world number 1 Ireland take on the All Blacks in one of the best games I've ever seen in my life. The Irish played in their typical expansive yet organised style, and the All Blacks for the most part just managed it. Ireland eventually forced to string together 37 tired attritional phases to try and win the game. I was supporting Ireland and I think I shit myself 4 times during those last minutes, only to end up with my heart in my stomach and my head in my hands. The next night kicked off with England and Fiji, which again was a brilliant match. England slowly suffocated the Fijians, but a textbook fight back saw the margin stand at 1 score for the last 10 minutes, Fiji eventually falling agonisingly short. And then to close out what was an absolutely hectic weekend of rugby, we saw a game which was perhaps the best of the lot. The world champion Springboks against the hosts, the French. In the lead up to the game, I had no idea how it would play out, but whatever prediction I could have made would never have dreamt that there would be 6 tries in the first half. The French seemingly dominated, controlling possession and territory, but the Boks were just so clinical they managed to keep up and eventually shatter me by knocking out the last team left that I was cheering for. So now there are 4. England and Argentina, perhaps fortunate to be there and probably not for much longer. And the 2 powerhouses, arch rivals New Zealand and South Africa. And we're forced to answer the same question again. Who are the favourites to win the Rugby World Cup? Let me start by saying that England and Argentina are getting no consideration as favourites. They've had an easy run and still struggle. Yes, they could cause upsets because the Boks and the Kiwis are probably cooked after playing the equivalent of a final last week, but they're just not the favourites. So that just leaves us with the Kiwis or the Boks. Let's first have a look at the Kiwis. The All Blacks started off the tournament with a comfortable loss to the French, and there was a lot of doubt in how far the team were capable of progressing. To be fair to them, they were without their 2 most important players in Geordie Barrett and Shannon Frizzell. The structure and clarity they provide to the All Black attack and set piece cannot be understated. The Kiwis need a big physical presence at 12 to be able to secure meters and make an impact defensively. Geordie also brings with him the kicking game of a world-class fullback. At 6, Frizzell has the potential to own the jersey as well as Kano did, which is so vital in this All Black setup because Kane and Savia have to be on the field, which leaves them with a pretty small back row, making a big body at 6 so essential. He also provides that extra jumping option at the lineout, which is so important. Despite the hiccup, the Kiwis were able to bounce back comfortably, closing out the pool stages with an aggregate score of 240-20 over Namibia, Italy and Uruguay, letting the world know they were still the goods. And I know a lot of people will say these games aren't challenges, which is partly true, but that Italy game was immense. Italy were poor at this World Cup, I admit, but considering their recent Six Nations form, to put 96 points on them is fucking ridiculous. You cannot take that performance away from them because no team other than the All Blacks is capable of doing that to Italy. Another criticism of the All Blacks going into the quarters was that they weren't battle-hardened for a game against Ireland, but how wrong they were. The All Blacks delivered possibly the best ever performance by a Kiwi side at a World Cup, and this is competing with 3 World Cup winning sides. But it's the nature of the game, the context, which makes it so significant. The All Blacks were underdogs. When was the last time you heard that? They were playing the best team in the world who hadn't lost in 17 games and were fueled by desperation and determination to serve their general Johnny Sexton a fairy tale ending. They were coming off of their first ever pool game loss and their heaviest defeat ever. They weren't supposed to win this game, but they did. And it wasn't a fluke. Any team who can defend 37 consecutive Irish phases deserves the win, deserves to be in a semi-final. Now on to South Africa. The Boks this World Cup haven't really taken their foot off the gas. They knocked the Scots down a peg and delivered one of the most one-sided 20 minutes of World Cup rugby ever against the Romanians, before rain helped to kill the game and let the Romanians get their head out of a maul for more than 2 seconds. They also got through Tonga without any real issues. Even in a narrow loss to the Irish, they still looked deadly. The main talking point from that game being the 11 points the Boks missed off the tee, 5 by Lebok and 6 by Faf, which in a game where there were only 21 points scored is a pretty big issue. Fortunately for the Boks, Pollard has since joined the squad kicking 6 from 6 and Lebok has kicked 5 from 6. But there will still be plenty of anxiety surrounding Lebok's spirit if he is back to 10 for the rest of the tournament. These performances were enough to book themselves a quarterfinal with France, which isn't really much of a reward, but that's just the nature of this draw. Dupont and his men played with such speed and flair, which was so beautiful to watch. The Boks for large portions of the game never really looked like the side who would end up on top, but that's why they were so excellent. Much like the Kiwis, they were so clinical. They converted everything they could get their hands on. Every loose ball, every penalty, every lapse in concentration. The Colby charge down sums up the Springbok performance perfectly. They would not have won that game if they didn't capitalise on every opportunity to score points, or in this case, stop the 2 points which would have seen France win the game. To shut down this French side is an unbelievable feat. It wasn't supposed to happen. Everything was set up for them. Their talent at an all-time high, their depth incredible, playing at home and absolutely brilliantly. For Boks to survive this game is a testament to what they're capable of. The semi-finals this weekend don't reap the same mouth-watering fixtures we saw last week, but they open the door for massive upsets. The Kiwis should blitz Argentina, but if I was to provide hope for the Argentinians, I'd point out that there will be a lot more tired bodies in the Kiwi camp. They made 226 tackles last week compared to Argentina's 99. There's also an argument for the danger of a confident Argentina side. Last week was so important for them because they've been struggling. Having beaten New Zealand twice in the last few years is key as well, because when they believe something is possible, they play with passion that I've not seen from any other side. Kiwis are definitely clear favourites for this game, but playing against a Checker side, you never know. As for the other semi, the Boks will devour the Poms. I'm not even going to bother trying to formulate a scenario where the English get up. They're just shit. Boks are on a one-way trip to the final. So presuming we get a Kiwi Boks final, let's have a look at how that might go down and try to determine a favourite. I want to get one really controversial take out of the way just quickly, and though it might make me an idiot, I still think it's a decent talking point. The South African defence might be a bit overrated. Looking at it purely from a can the Boks tackle view, I just don't think they're where they're perceived to be. Put a bit of footwork at the line on the big lumps and they struggle. They missed 43 tackles against the French with a success rate of 71%, and against the Scots only had a success rate of 72%. Not to mention the Tongans breaking their line with ease. To put this into perspective a bit, Italy tackled at 64% against the Kiwis in one of the worst defensive efforts of all time. Now I know the Scots didn't score a try against the Boks, which is why I'm probably talking out my arse a bit, because tackle success isn't a holistic reflection on defence, but missed tackles means more space and Kiwis thrive on that space. The half breaks, the extra second to get an offload away. Unlike France, who were blasting through the block defence but didn't have the finishing touch to convert these chances into points. The Boks are going to get punished if they commit these same mistakes. Sure, they're making more dominant tackles than any other team, but they're missing just as many. Moving on to the set piece, I really don't want it to look like I hate the Boks, but again, I don't think it's as strong as perceived at the moment. At this World Cup, the Boks have won 78% of their scrums and 90% of their lineouts, which is fairly solid, but compared to the Kiwis who have won 84% of their scrums and 98% of their lineouts, there's cause for concern considering the set piece is supposed to be an area of dominance for the Boks. However, those stats only consider your own ball. Disturbing your opponent's set piece is also important. South Africa's opponents at this World Cup have only won 63% of their scrums and 78% of their lineouts. Pretty good. But once again, the Kiwis are just better, with their opponents only winning 56% of their scrums and 76% of their lineouts. Now I know stats don't mean everything, but ignore the hype around the Boks set piece for a minute. They're not performing to their standard and the Kiwis are flourishing. To be fair, the Boks set piece was a lot better last week against France, so I still expect there to be a great contest, but I just don't think the Boks have shown enough to suggest that their set piece will get up over the Kiwis. Alright, I've argued against the Boks for long enough. Let's see what they've got going for them. Their boys are fresh. They've been rotating well all World Cup, making sure that when they go on, they can belt the absolute shit out of anyone. Eben Etzebeth has seemingly hit a new prime, which is just beyond me. He's more violent and terrifying than ever. The Kiwi lineout has been nearly perfect. Etzebeth needs to be the one to change that. Colby is back to his best, making 5 line breaks last week. The way he dashes through holes is a joy to watch, especially with his clone on the other wing. You can't be napping in defence. What about the pressure the Boks put on their kicks? Last week saw some of the most precise tactical kicking ever delivered on a rugby field. Each kick had purpose and a goal. The French were shitting the bed every time the ball went up. The chase was unreal and it seemed like half the Boks squad was in a position to collect the loose ball when it arrived. The Kiwis Kiwi back three are pretty solid in the air, but I can definitely see the Boks manipulating them until they break down. Honestly, going into this, I thought I'd have more to say about South Africa, but I don't know. It becomes really hard to support their claim when you discredit their defense and their set piece. I want to reinforce that those are just stats, and I trust that when the time comes they will click, because this team is a unit which brings out the best in their individuals. They have shown us so many times before how capable they are of choking sides until they tap out, only to keep choking. If Boks are gonna win, they gotta do what they do best. Be violent and scare the shit out of them. Make them tiptoe into rucks, flinch at contact, quiver at the lineouts so they drop their frickin' jumpers. They have to win the physical battle, and they have to manufacture an advantage at the set piece. Just being clinical won't be enough, because the Kiwis are equally lethal in the red zone. Possession and territory will both be of paramount importance in what will hopefully be another thrilling game between these two sides. I could talk about this matchup for days, but the semis start tomorrow, and if I don't get this up today, Argentina and England will win, then I won't have a video. So let's wrap it up. Who are the bloody favourites? Who do I think is going to win the World Cup? I think on a surface level, my instinct is the Boks. Given their ruthlessness at tournament rugby and Rassie insisting that this is the World Cup they've been building towards. But I think Eddie Jones has taught us that what coaches say isn't always true. The Boks definitely have a better chance of reaching the final, but I just don't know if I back them to go all the way. The Kiwis have really impressed me, and looking at some of the finer details, they've got the numbers to back it. So I hate to say it, but I think we've come full circle. The All Blacks are back and are my favourites to win another World Cup. They're the last of the big four to be crowned that title this World Cup. Every team before them crumbling beneath it. Can they handle the pressure and bring home a fourth Webb Ellis Cup, or will they just be another favourite to fall short of the mark?